when you have hope, there is an option, there is a chance, there is something that you can do, there is some path that you can follow. And that's key. Because what happens is, okay, of course, OCD is going to latch to that and go, well, what happens if you've lost hope? What if you're depressed? What if you don't think that there's any hope anymore? Of course, we can work on accepting that and making peace with that. But remember, like with Kirsty's video on the YouTube channel talking about acceptance isn't agreement, that's a key point there. Now, in relation to hope, the reason we have to keep hopeful in the OCD recovery journey is because OCD is going to always shut doors. It's trying to shut doors from the beginning on us. In every single way it's looking for, it's trying to shut the door on us. So our mind is, wherever we're thinking, oh, if I do this, I can, this can work to recover. It's going, but what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't get you to recover? Whenever you're thinking, okay, in that situation, I'm still okay, I'm still at peace. It's going, well, what if you're not still at peace? What if you stay anxious forever? What if you're guilty? What every moment you try and get yourself off the hook, so-called get yourself off the hook in terms of when it relates to harm or real event OCD, what then tends to happen is we then start chasing in our mind and we start thinking, if I can get myself off the hook here, and then OCD goes, well, okay, what about if you did this? That's why we move towards unconditional self, life, and other acceptance to get under it all together. And that's key for recovery. Now, in relation to hope, we've got to keep those paths going. We've got to keep those paths in our mind open towards a path that we're trying to get to, because otherwise what happens, if you don't do that, you're leaving yourself with all the doors shut and you're going to feel very demotivated and feel like you can't get anywhere. OCD recovery, the reason why it's felt so hopeless for so many years and why we do so much work to change that, to be all about recovery, and that's why it's called OCDrecovery.com, and that's why I bought that domain ages ago at an auction, because I wanted to make sure that people realize that recovery is possible for everyone. If you have a brain, human brain, if you have a human brain and you have OCD, you can change your perspectives on things so that OCD can't latch in the way it does. And I used to think that OCD recovery was only reserved for a few lucky people, but it's not a thing like that. It's about learning to change your perspective on things so OCD can't latch in the way it does. And I wanted to come on here and do a very sort of brief chat about hope, because often I'm thinking of different topics in relation to how I frame OCD for people, and they come to sort of, it's an idea, it's a thought pops into your head when you're going about your day. And I was just on my way out to dinner and I thought to myself, I really want to come on here very quickly and talk about hope and why it's so important to keep hope alive. You have to think of all the difficult recovery journeys there are. If you scroll through our page, you'll see so many different people with really hard scenarios. People come into me with very, very difficult life circumstances plus OCD. And then OCD is different in different people. Some people have OCD which is kind of mild, it doesn't grip so much. When you think of these situations, when you think of these things and these circumstances, you are not alone with your circumstance. You're not in some rare situation that nobody's ever been in. You're in a situation which many people are in, but until social media came around, where humans could connect with one another and tell them what they're going through and explain what their story is and what their background is and what their thoughts are, then it became more apparent and more common, as opposed to the 18th century where you really didn't want to have OCD. It would have been pretty bleak. So hopeful because you're living at this time, hopeful because you can see that there's a path to get better, and hopeful because you've got the resources to get better.